Morning, Jay.
Morning.
I guess we'll wish everyone a happy Cinco de Mayo. If you're celebrating or just celebrate to have the fun of margaritas and tacos through the day.
That means I got to try to get this out not in 2 weeks, so it's the end of May by the time it gets out.
That's all right. It'll still be refreshed. Everybody can look back on what a good Cinco de Mayo they had. Also, primary day here in the state of Indiana. So if so inclined to get out and vote, do our duty. Well, here we are, Jay. Another one. This happens to be our 25th episode.
Okay.
So celebrating our silver jubilee in episodes, so to speak.
Okay.
Which is pretty good, considering where we've been and the challenge to just kind of stay within your schedule, your agenda. But as always, appreciate it. And for 25 times, I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. Not just from the fact of recording my chronicling of my journey in transitioning to this encore phase, but this time we get to spend bantering back and forth a little bit. It's been a lot of fun as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So today I thought we've talked about authenticity, authentic life. You talk a great deal about that in your world and all of your writings and your podcasts.
I've even created a new word, authenticist. I didn't even look at the notes today to the shirt on, but it's a new shirt I made. I'm testing it out. It just says authenticist on it, which is a hard word to say. I think technically it might be a word, but I want to own it as that somebody who's living their authentic life, pursuing it, like they are an authenticist.
Yeah.
So one day people will say they are authenticists.
Why not? I mean, our English language affords us the opportunity to just make up words.
Yeah, there's dumber stuff that become words.
Absolutely. So why not something with a bit of a purpose, with a strong drive behind it in your words and in your planning. But also just on that again, all of the work you do in your authentic life planning that leads into the financial planning for folks, their future or their current future going forward, like myself. Shout out again. You created the 5, right? Is that's
yeah.
5? I didn't get a chance to look at yours. Goes out every Friday or every Monday night at 5:00 or thereabouts. So I didn't get to look at this Monday.
Every Monday 5:00.
Every
Eventually
Monday at
it'll
5?
be a live
Okay.
show.
All right.
Eventually it'll be like a TV show. It'll be live stream on YouTube. But for now, we're just 3 weeks in, 5:00. So I record it Monday morning. Over the weekend, I'm using Claude to help me source articles. So the goal is to have, I've always wanted to have a weekly show, but not like a weekly podcast episode, like a show. And in the future, it'd be cool to have like people join me. So it's not just me riffing, but you got to start somewhere. So the premise of the show is, it is a news show of sorts where I find topics from the last week or relevant times that align with spirit, mind, body, money, because my main 4 pillars, and then creativity, because I think that's important as well. And I like the creativity arm because it allows me to talk about music and other things that I enjoy and kind of rope that in. So the goal is to find headlines, studies, things to talk about to help people align their spirit, mind, body, money, become more creative as they pursue their authentic life. So I use Claude to help me source. So I'm saving stuff I come across throughout the week, but also I don't have a research team. So Claude I have a little agent that's built that will every Saturday go out and find relevant topics, source them for me. I'll go through them and figure out which ones I want to use, and then kind of create a little bit of a script, which usually I don't do. So I want to get better at not reading too much, but also, newscasters have teleprompters, and I don't have a teleprompter. So if I read some of the stuff I wrote and then dive into the actual conversation part of it, I'm okay with that. Yeah. So it's fun. I'm enjoying it. I think it'll be cool. Like, it's just right now it's just me recording it in here. Last week I did it at home, me editing it, so there's nothing fancy, but like in my mind there's visuals that pop up, there's transitions that go when I end with spirit and go to mind, there'll be a transition that'll pop up, so and make it higher production. But again, if I waited to have all that, I would never do it. So I just decided, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start recording. I'm going to put pressure on myself to have to do it every week at 5, because I want people to look forward to it. I want them to know it's coming. So, just get started, and then you can make it prettier and better as time goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but kudos on that. I just wanted to throw that because it actually, from you doing that, I like it because, again, I've always kidded you about, and Kristen's the same way, not paying attention to news and current events. I know that you guys do, but not to the level. So just in my jostling with you about that, in as much as this isn't really current events, it is 5 topics, at least current happenings that you're attaching to your pillars.
I have to
think
defend
is
myself because knowing what's going on in the world is important for my job. I do pay attention to current events. I just don't watch too much of it. I just need to know the general timeline of what's happening, what's going on, so I can know what are my clients going to ask about? Do I need to do anything? Like, I've never made any changes because of headlines, but I need to know what's going on for my job. So I don't want people thinking that I just go through life not knowing what's going on in the world. Like, my main source is I'll sometimes have CNBC on the background, and it's not the greatest channel in the world, but it has the finance side of things, but also anything world event is going to come up on there. Yeah. So I know what's going on. I know that a boat was led through the Strait of Hormuz overnight by the U.S., so oil's come down. Like, I know all this stuff is going on. So I know my current events.
Yeah, all right. All right, just want to make sure you're staying involved.
But the reality is, I think my current events that I'm picking up on my show
exactly.
will actually impact people's lives way more than the distractive headlines. Not to downplay them because they are serious headlines, but they're distractions from you living your life. So yes, those things are going on. You need to know there's things we would love to change in the world, and we can still strive to do that. But looking at the world through the lens of all that stuff is going to make life pretty miserable. And if you look through the lens, like one of the things I talked about yesterday was studies have shown that one of the best ways to prevent mental health is have a good perception of yourself, which leans into looking internal to find your validation and loving yourself, not looking to the external world. So having a good perception of yourself and self-image, it has more impact on mental health than the pharmaceuticals and other clinical things that people do. Right. Like, to me, that's way more impactful now. It doesn't mean it's easy to change your self-image and perception, but if you know that's the thing, then you can start working on that and if you change your internal image, your internal world, the external world changes. Yeah. It's the reason that we can all exist in the world at the same time with all of the crappy stuff going on. And again, not turning a blind eye to those, but also not let that define my experience. Exactly. Yeah, things aren't perfect, but I'm living a really good life. And it's because of the lens that I look at the world. I don't let those headlines overexcite me. I don't let what Trump says or Trump does throw me into a tiffy, and I spend all my time worrying about that and talking about that. Like, it's just in one ear, out the other, because it's not really changing my life.
Right. Exactly. No, and that's funny. I chuckle internally time to time when we're together because we don't necessarily rehearse a lot of things. And when I put my thoughts of what we're going to do our episode on, I share them with you beforehand. But I know you never look at them till you get here, and then you say, "What are we going to talk about?" But,
today's the first time I actually looked at it. I never look at them. I just show up.
I know exactly. So to my point,
it's not my show. I'm the sidekick.
But to illustrate just, again, the synchronicity that happens from time to time with us, what I wanted to talk about today was a little bit about, once we get to this phase of life, do we just settle for kind of who we are now as we think about retirement? It's about a time to relax, enjoy yourself, don't put a lot of pressure, to your point about not getting too involved with current headlines and, obsess over them. So I wanted to chat about this time of life of, do we settle for who we are, kind of into this authentic life bit, or should we really take a step back and become like a kid again with regards to being curious?
I think we should be curious all through life.
I know that's great, but
and one of the things, like, I think words matter, and so I think that you choosing the word settle into this version of ourself, I think, to me, settling is a word where you're relinquishing growth, you're relinquishing your curiosity, and you're becoming comfortable. So it's funny, I had this on a conversation with my friend Ohan on our podcast. We talked about content versus comfortable. And yesterday I kicked off a new coaching engagement with a young man, and we were talking about contentment versus comfortable again. And to me, comfort is the settling. And like the analogy I use, and this is my definition, so maybe you think about things differently, but to me, I don't want to become comfortable. I don't think you should ever want to settle in, because then you stop growing. But to me, comfort is like that Sunday afternoon, it's rainy, it's cold, and you just get on the couch and you get comfortable and you never get up. and you become lazy. Like, it's a lazy Sunday. And there's nothing wrong with having a lazy Sunday, but that, to me, that's what comfort is. You just don't want to move because it feels so good, and you don't want to step into that discomfort, discomfort is where all the growth happens. So to me, comfortable is when you become complacent and you stop growing and you just kind of like time moves on.
Right.
Versus contentment, to me, contentment means you're happy with what you have, you're happy with where you're at, but contentment leaves the room for growth. Like in contentment, doesn't mean you have to give up growing. I think comfortability, you end up giving up some growth. Settling, you end up giving up some growth. Like, you're just kind of giving up. But with contentment, you can maintain happiness and satisfaction while you continue to grow. And I think that life is an evolution. And so our authentic life is an evolution. It's not a destination. You don't ever get to that point and then settle in and get comfortable. Because when you get to that point, you have new perspective and you have new things you want to grow. So I think that constantly growing, it's you're saying at the end, like, never stop, never settle, never da-da-da. Like, I don't think at any phase you should settle. And I think that, yes, in your encore phase, you should totally get curious again. But I think we should change the narrative that we should always remain curious. Right. Follow that curiosity, because that curiosity ends up leading you to things that you may never experience that may totally change the outcome of your life. Like, if I look at myself, starting my business, I wanted to have a blog. And so it's a curiosity of, can I write? What is it like to write a blog? Can I use this blog to grow my business? Had I never started writing All About Your Benjamins, we wouldn't be sitting here recording this podcast, because the curiosity of the blog led me to the curiosity of the podcast, All About Your Benjamins, which led me to the curiosity of video, which led me to always following my curiosity, always following my interests and passions and experimenting. And to some people, it may look like there was a lot of time wasted going down paths that I pivoted back from, but it wasn't a waste, because I learned something new, or I realized that that's not something for me. Example being producing music. I've always said if I could do anything else in the world, I would love to be a hip hop producer. And so last year, maybe a year and a half ago now, I hired somebody to be a coach to teach me how to make beats. So I have 21 beats that I made on a SoundCloud account. Some of the beats I use as background music. I'm pretty sure the beat to this, the intro to this, is one of my beats. But what I learned is it's not as enjoyable for me as I thought it would be. I'm not good at it. Like, I don't think the beats are bad, but I can't make the beats that I want to make. And I also don't want to dedicate the time for it, because I can't see it becoming anything bigger. So if I ever have the urge to do it, I can do it. But now I know hip-hop producer is not anything I need to think about. So I save the mental space of every once in a while wondering, it would be cool if I did that. And no, I tried it. I experienced it. I have outcomes showing that I did it, but it doesn't need to be any more of my time. And for me, at least, I have to have that experience to know that's not worth it.
Yeah. And I think that's the energy that I wanted to bring into this morning's conversation, specifically targeting, of course, this time of life, which is what this is all about, the retirement, the encore phase. Because I think, as we spoke to, and I've written in my blog about, our look at retirement has been driven by what we understand it from what we've seen growing up, or what we're told it should be. And so I was just contrasting the idea that, okay, retirement's our time to just sit back and relax, enjoy our days, our time, don't live the hustle bustle of emails constantly binging and you have to respond to them, going to bed late at night, waking up first thing in the morning, you check email. We're supposed to say, okay, that's all gone, so now I sit back and just relax, settle into this phase of life and figure out. So I just wanted to bring in to say, I think those who are planning for retirement, or those like myself in it, or just still in the early stages of it, it really is that time to keep the curiosity alive, or jumpstart that curiosity if you somehow lost it, right? Because
it's a second chance.
Right. It not only just a second chance, it's to the point you raised that, like myself, you have to stop thinking about everything as a phase of life. I mean, I'm guilty of referring to that as this is a phase of life. Well, yes, it is. But I think what I'm settling into, and not to be, playing the word settle again, what I'm understanding to feel better and become more who I am today than I ever was in my previous decades, is that it is about remaining just as curious now as I was when I first started out in life. When I graduated, Mom and I got married, we started our life. Everything was a curiosity. And then you go through life, work takes on what it takes on. Mm-hmm. We go through our phases, because those are phases in those various decades. But coming into this time, I'm wanting it to encourage everybody pre-retirement planning or in your early phases or wherever you may be at, that curiosity has to stay alive. Mm-hmm. Because it really is a time to renew ourselves, mm-hmm. to keep pushing. Because throughout our working life, work does throw up those obstacles from us maybe exploring who we want or having the time to do some of the things that we want to do.
And I would say, like, for your generation, you guys didn't have the opportunity necessarily to explore as much as people do today. Like, the internet allows you to do a lot of exploration, whether it is watching YouTube videos to learn how to do something that therefore you can go do. Like, I think exploring when you were in your career was a lot harder and probably more time consuming than it is today. I mean, shoot, today you could build stuff with AI that you could have never done beforehand. So I do think that it was not as easy. Like, your generation wasn't told that. Like, you've got to, all right, it's time to grow up and do this thing and go on this path. And like, so that's what you were told. But also the ability to explore, the understanding, the awareness of what's possible was much less when you were working.
Yeah.
Like, again, the understanding. Like, think about you growing up in Western Pennsylvania. Like, until you came to Indy, like, what was your exposure to what the world offered?
Yeah, it was
the
limited.
steel mill.
Yeah,
like that was it. You didn't know like what city life was like and all the other opportunities and the hustle and bustle, and like the most you could have is like what the newspapers may have had or what you might see on one of the handful of TV stations. And now you get exposure to everything under the sun of possibilities. And now there's the tools that allow anybody to create their possibilities. So I do think that where we are today is a lot easier to explore the curiosity because you can actually go do it.
Yeah, very, very true. A lot of truth behind that. Even as I look through my life and reflect back on it, you're right. We knew what we knew growing up where we were at, as we've spoken before, and you well know. We didn't have to worry about thinking beyond that mm-hmm. part of the valley, because the valley provided everything that you wanted, a great life. The working in a steel mill was at the time that I was growing up in a heyday, a phenomenal job, despite, unless you guys went a couple of the bad areas, you'd having to go to work in front of a blast furnace every day over 2,500 degrees, packing mud to keep mm-hmm. the heat up. It wouldn't be a fun. Mm-hmm. But where I ended up in the cold strip, where they cut the steel down, was relatively clean versus some of the other departments. That was a pretty good place. Mm-hmm. But anyhow, back to it. I think this exploration has to remain alive in us. And I'll just settle back and be the old man here and say it has to settle in and be still alive at this phase of life. I mean, at 70, I should feel as curious today in my 70s as I was back in my 50s or maybe even 40s. Mm-hmm. Maybe even more curious today, because the first thing we should want to do is redefine longevity. Not for it to be just how long we live, because mm-hmm. we don't know how long we're going to live, but how well we live in that period of time, whatever that may be. Mm-hmm. Stop thinking about it, okay, I'm in my 70s. I only have, well, if I'm lucky enough, I still could have another good 25 years, and that's still another lifetime. Mm-hmm. But I also think the curiosity allows us, and again, not having the work routine behind us, gives us that opportunity to remain better about getting our diet a little better mm-hmm. than maybe when we were working. I know my diet was terrible while I was working. I very seldom ate breakfast. Lunch was non-existent, because once I started working at the desk, I just went at it. Mm-hmm. Never stopped to have lunch, except if I was in an office, we would go to lunch. And then dinner was, well, whatever dinner was. So I now have a chance, and have been over the years, if you would, kind of cleaning up the diet, getting better about the diet. Same thing with exercise. Even though Bum and I have always had a great exercise routine, we ought to, in this phase, redefine that exercise program and have an opportunity to make it more daily. Mm-hmm. Not that it becomes a routine, but something that you know you can do and love and get at it, because it's now about making sure I'm able to do something when I'm 80 and 90. We have that opportunity where we didn't before. And then the other piece of it too is that with this power of curiosity, I think why it's so powerful is that we really can keep looking at ourselves in a role of a beginner, right? More so now, since there's no career path, there's no performance reviews, you're a beginner all the time. And being a beginner is that curiosity. When we're young, we're a beginner, so we have a lot of curiosity. As we go through our ages, we still become a beginner. And I think it's very critical to keep that beginner alive so that we remember that period of time, what it's like to be a beginner, and not be held back by that obstacle of, well, I don't want to try this because if I do, that may hurt my performance review, or it may stunt my career possibilities, which I think happens naturally as we work in time.
Well,
So
I also think that like becoming a beginner in the encore phase, you have to put the ego aside.
yeah,
Like you're
Good
not
point.
going to be good when you begin, and a lot of people don't like not being good. So it's less about the performance review and the other stuff. It's more about being okay, coming up short, being okay, quote unquote, failing, not being good at something. But like I think the excitement should be the challenge of getting better at it. And so the nice thing is when you become a beginner, you can see progress. Like when you've been doing something for a long time, like it's hard to see progress because eventually things kind of plateau out. But when you're a beginner, like from class to class or whatever it might be, you can see the progress you've made, which should be the thing that builds the momentum to keep you wanting to go do it. But I also think you have to drop the ego and be comfortable going back to be a beginner, which means you're not going to be the best in the room. You're not going to do it perfectly. You're going to mess up. You're going to fail. You're going to have to work hard. Like you have to be okay with that. Otherwise, you're going to try once, you're not going to do good, and then you're going to quit.
exactly. And I think that's where, again, I know I'm going to keep alluding to this phase of life. It becomes exciting because you can be that beginner, because it doesn't matter that you're not good at it. You either can continue along doing what it is that you've begun and just be happy with that because you've started something new, or you can continue to fine tune that, just like to your point about wanting to be a recorder. Well, yeah, it may not be what you wanted and always thought you want, but now you can do that just as a hobby because you can do it. Because what else are you going to do? So on that point, in the Daily Stoic, May 2nd, this came about as a passage. It said, "First, tell yourself what kind of person you want to be. Then do what you have to do. For nearly every pursuit, we see this to be the case. Those who take on an athletic pursuit first choose their sport, then they do the work." So it's about spending some time, really uninterrupted time, and that's what this encore phase gives us, that uninterrupted time to just decide. If we've never decided what kind of person we want to be, or if we thought we wanted to be that kind of person and we were that person throughout our life, it's okay to be a whole new person now, whatever that means. Because, I can just be who I want to be. Mom and I, our relationship is changing because of this time in life and who we need to be for one another. And it's been interesting to watch that transition between us as well. The little things that we're picking up that we may have just overlooked, and finding some different things to love more than we did in the past.
I think that one of the things you made me think about when you mentioned like the curiosity and to be somebody new, like I think that if you've gone through life not being able to be your authentic self, and maybe you didn't know you weren't because I hadn't given you that idea before, but it made me think of Bronnie Ware's 5 Regrets of the Dying. I think we brought that up before on the podcast before. But the number one regret of the dying that she saw was they wish they would have been more true to themselves. I forget how she phrases it, but basically, people on their deathbed, it's not that they wish they had more money and traveled more and all these different things. Like there's some things of like been a better friend and spent more time with family. So there are some of those things in there. But the number one regret was being more true to themselves, which meant through significant periods of their lives, they compromised what they wanted. They compromised who they were, and they didn't get a chance to live that. And so being in the encore phase, having the time, having the freedom, having the flexibility to explore the curiosity and be a newer version of yourself, like my encouragement would be the version of yourself that you want to be, regardless of what anybody else says.
Okay.
Because now if you're on your deathbed and you got to spend 25 years being a more true, authentic version of yourself, or being the version of yourself you've grown into that you want to be, then you can look back and you don't have that regret. Like you can say, okay, it would have been nice to have done something different in my career, but I got 25 years of being me. And those were a great 25 years, and those were my last 25 years. I went out, I went out my way and eliminate that regret. Like I think regret is one of the things that I personally want to avoid as much as possible in life. And that's the things I talk about to the boys, just about like with their athletics and doing things differently and doing things that their friends aren't doing, because I know what it's going to take to reach their goals. And what I tell them is, I don't want you to look back wishing you would have gotten up earlier, wishing that you would have worked on ball handling more, wishing that you would have gone and run more for conditioning, because that was the little thing that kept you from reaching your goal. And you can't go back and do that. And all you had to do was do this thing. And now, if you do all of those things and you look back over your life and you're like, okay, I did everything that I knew I could have done to reach my goal and I didn't reach it, the regret's not there. And I think regret is like a very powerful, not in a good way, emotion or feeling or whatever you want to call it. So I think that minimizing the regret of not being yourself is the motivation that should give you in your encore phase to like really lean into those curiosities. Give yourself the space to figure things out. And I think about the kinder question, that is a very powerful question. If today was your last day, who did you not get to become? What did you not get to do? What was left undone? And so if you don't know what you would want to change or what you would want to do different, like sit with that question.
Yeah.
And be truthful and say, okay, if I look back on my life, who did I not get to become? What did I not get to do? What did I start that I didn't finish? And then like make those the things that you start going after and pursuing, and then just be open to the callings that you have. Like follow the passions, follow the interests. I believe that those passions and those interests, like they're inside of you for a reason. Like I think those are meant to be guides to direct you to where you're supposed to be and do what you're supposed to do. Like that's the spirit, mind, body, money thing. And that spirit is your connection to a higher power, to your creator, however you define that. And the reason our passions come from our heart is because that, to me, the heart is the connection to the higher power. So it resides in your heart. It's why we love the things. That's why we're passionate about things, because it comes from our heart, which is connected to your creator. Absolutely. So it's there for a reason. Follow it. And so many people like don't follow their passions. Like I hate when people say don't follow your passions. And I get what they're saying, that like, okay, not everybody's passion is meant to be your career, but I think it's disingenuous to tell somebody not to follow something that they really want to do. Don't quit your job and follow your passion, but find space for it to see where it may go, because you never know where it's going to take you. Hold on, I need to do the camera. I'm not done. I got more to say on that. And so the other side of that argument is, do something you're good at and the passions will develop. And there is truth in that. Like I look at my career, I didn't have a passion for financial planning. I didn't even know it existed when I graduated college. But being in the business, I grew a passion for it and I stayed with it. But I just think that those passions, the interests that you have that might turn into passions, are there for a reason, and you owe it to yourself to explore it. So don't keep your passions bottled up. Go follow them. Start off in small ways and see where it takes you. And maybe it takes you into this big opportunity that becomes really, lucrative, or maybe it's just something you do because you enjoy it. Yeah. But you're meant to do it. There's a reason you're drawn to it. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah. No, very, very key points and very well articulated. And that is what I'm seeing happen, not only to myself, but now that I've been here, watching those that have retired before me and have been in it a long period of time, as I'm seeing them, I see that as the key element in our motivation to continue to be who we want to be. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's who we are without. I mean, I honestly can say, I don't see any real regrets if I look back over my life, because honestly, I never thought it would, if you would, unfold to deliver where I'm at today. I mean, as we started out and as the career started to grow, some of the opportunities that came about, be they luck, attributed to hard work, right place, right time. I don't know what those were.
Mm-hmm.
May have been a combination of all of that. But things unfolded to for me and to me in ways that I never thought of.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no regrets because, I committed to knowing the family was going to be a part of my life, and everything that I would do would be driven to the family.
No regrets on JK Group?
No, because at the time, no, I can say that, and I will qualify by saying, yes, that was always my dream, is to have that. Were there any regrets? No, because when that opportunity presented itself at the time, I drew a line in the sand and said, I will give what I can and do what I can. And if I start to go over that line in the sand, I have to withdraw. Because it was at that point in time, if you kind of realize, was it mid 40s, late 40s at the time that happened? Again, I've lost it. But somewhere, let's just say it was the late 40s. I was not at a point where I could kept going and eat away at whatever savings I set aside. That line basically was the line in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I think I can use in the savings that I have at this point in time to see what I can do. But once I get here, I can't go further because, again, just me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't. That's why I say it's not a regret. It may be my inner self that was afraid of taking more chances. I don't say that's a regret, because when I said, okay, I got to stop,
Mm-hmm.
right? I stopped there because that was being true to me, being true to Mom, being true to you two, because what I felt I needed to be able to do and the way I wanted you guys to have a life.
Mm-hmm.
When I stopped is the opportunity then I got to join Zurich.
Mm-hmm.
So that joining Zurich at the time, the Zurich I joined at the time, since I've bounced around a couple of different business units in Zurich over the years, that presented a whole new brand of opportunity and bumped our, if you would, quality of life, simply because, again, driven by salary increases and everything else that went on with that. So that helped us do a lot of things. That helped me do a lot for you and Kristen during your college years. It helped me regain some of what I don't want to say lost, but I'm going to say it so you can jump on me. What I lost in trying to pursue J&K from a savings perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make it all up, but I did okay. I say no regrets because that was always still there. Did I ever go back to it? No, because the jumps I made with the career were still very good for what were going on. Then, of course, as life does, it presented the other challenges in our life, right? As time went on with, my dad, Denise's dad, Mom's dad, our moms, other things in life happened, so you had to be focused on those. So I can't say there was a regret to it. Yes, those became, the challenges at the time. We got through those, thus the years. Here I am today. So if you want to ask me if there's a regret, and I want to say, okay, I can sit down and say, yeah, I can make a regret out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I can say, yeah, I should have been smarter to ask somebody and not pursued this part of where I went with J&K at the time and gone this way. But I didn't. But I can't say that's a regret because, if you would, I didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
I decided this is how I wanted to go. I didn't have anybody around me to really challenge me about what I was doing. I didn't even know where to turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I talked with Uncle John a lot at the time, and as you know, he's always, been my mentor, and my other dad, the white collar dad. My dad was the blue collar dad, as I always tell people. Of course, my dad has been gone a long time, so Uncle John was that person, and he steered me right. He kept me motivated. He made me feel, but again, no regrets.
Okay.
Like I said, I could make a regret out of it if I want to, but I've now gotten better of not worrying about it because it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So everything went well. I say everything went well because here we are.
Mm-hmm.
I gave what I wanted to give to you. I gave what I wanted to give to Kristen. I gave what I wanted to give to Mom. I gave what I wanted to give to all of us. I was able to help at the time when my dad went the way he went. Things happen, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all good. Now this is my time, which is what I'm trying to encourage those listening or watching. when we do reach this time, it's about creating the right kind of time now. It's not about just trying to put things to fill your calendar, right? When we come to the encore phase, it's now, what are you going to do with that? There's a couple of different numbers here based on how you calculate it. What are you going to do with the 164 to 175 hours a month? Which that means basically working hours. So we've got that away. What are you going to do now with that 164 to 175 hours? That's more the key now. You know, as we've been talking, you need to set down, as the passage from the Daily Stoic said. It said, okay, now what do I want to do? If you want to continue to be who you are, that's okay. Like we've said, you know, this is your time, however you want to be. If you want to, I use the term, settle into just, this is my time to just relax. I'm going to just do whatever I want to do. If it's a time to decide I'm going to go back to school and do whatever, that's what I want to try to encourage everybody to settle into saying, make the time. It's not about filling schedules anymore. You have no schedules. You know, the day becomes you do your stuff. Yes, it's important to have structure. We've talked about it. I've written about it. You still got to have structure. You still got to want to maintain that structure that's keeping you motivated, keeping you going each day. And it's easy if you don't have a structure. It's very easy to become human and truly settle into just sitting on the couch, running through Netflix series, you know, and binge watching, get caught up in the craziness of today. So getting through that identity that was once tied to work, the title, we always assigned a value based on our title, right? We kind of didn't know any different. We may understood that, but at the same time, we're human. We're all driven by wanting to climb, wanting to get better. Even if we do it in a very silent way, even if we do it in a very humble way, it's still driven to want to be better. Part of getting better means you're seeking some higher money numbers so that you can settle in and want to do things. But I just want to encourage us to don't worry about filling your schedule. Make sure you're identifying moments that mean something to you. Maybe it is going back to things you wanted to do when you were growing up and never got to do, to be that beginner, to stay curious. Those are the key motivators that I think are important to us. Should always be important to us throughout our life, but I'm only worried about now, right? I think I was, throughout my life, a strong, motivated person to want to succeed. My success was driven by what I did for us and those around us that I could, and including friends. So I feel, good. Other than that, I don't really have any regrets. I guess I shouldn't say, because we all have some sort of regrets, but I would only talk about regrets in the standpoint of, again, maybe feeling I didn't do enough. But that's another day's, psychologist couch sort of conversation we're not going to go into, because you know how I play on that. The other point I need to make for us today on this search to continue being more of who we are is you got to leave space. Leave some space. We just talked about don't try to fill time with something that's not important to you. But you want to leave space in your day, in your schedule, very loosely spoken about a schedule, so that you can take care of the moments that occur, right? Things, we're still living in life. Things are going to come up. So you got to remember that it's going to become important for you to take care of whatever those moments might be, whether they're care of a family member, a neighbor, help somebody out. You're going to want to find joy in those moments as well. And I think through that, we begin to feel a little better about that longevity question of not worrying about how long we live, because we don't know. We hope we wake up every day, and if we do, what's that verse? Every day is a good day because we're above ground, or something like that. I think it's a Pitbull lyric. I can't remember it exactly, but it was a song he had.
You're asking the wrong person for a Pitbull quote.
No, I wasn't trying to ask you for it. I'm just remembering it was a Pitbull lyric.
Well, I won't be able to help you, I should say.
It's about, every day is a good day, and that's how we should look at it, right?
Pitbull will never be up on these walls.
Now, that was then, right? That goes back a ways, so we'll worry about that. I think the greatest thing for us, though, is now at this point in time, it's an opportunity to give yourself permission to be uncertain, give yourself permission to be that beginner, and work on just identifying good moments to continue that curiosity. I think I don't want us to ever lose that curiosity. I mean, you said it better than I did a few moments ago. But the curiosity has got to remain our motivator as we work through our identity crisis. If we do, not everybody at this time, once they leave their job, works through an identity crisis, but it's a huge factor once we get into retirement, of defining who we are outside of our title, outside of our job, outside of all of those hours, the different changes that go on with relationships and the social aspects. Those are big challenges for us at this time in the encore phase. So as you're doing those things, just give yourself the freedom to feel good about those matters, and never regret, right, not doing something, because it's not a matter of not doing anymore, because if you do come across those, you now have that time to give it a shot.
I think something that's important on the regret side of things that you highlighted in talking about J&K Group and why you don't regret it. I think that regret will definitely show up if you never even explore it. But if you go down the path of whatever it is that you might be curious about, or the thing you always wanted to do, and you either try it, or even if you just think about it and you run whatever you need to run, comparisons. But at the end of the day, you can look back and say, okay, I wanted to have J&K Group, but I made a conscious decision not to do it because of ABC. I think regret is minimized to where maybe it doesn't feel like regret anymore, because you did entertain it. You did explore it. You didn't just have this idea that you were too afraid to try. Either you tried it and you gave yourself an endpoint, which I wonder if on the other side of that endpoint, had you stuck with it, is that when it blows up? Yeah. Usually that's what it is. One of my favorite, I have two versions of this that I love. One of them is a Jack Butcher illustration. Really simple. Black background, white lines, and it's all white lines that are the same height for a while, short. And then all of a sudden it starts to take off and it goes up. So imagine the curve goes up, and the last line before the first longer one says, "This is pointless." And that's when most people give up. They give themselves time, they stay with it for a little while, and the longer you're doing it and the longer it takes to see what you want to see, the excitement wanes, you begin to second guess yourself, you look like I'm running out of money, whatever it might be, and you double back. And when you double back, that's almost always if you would have stayed through that resistance, then you would have broke through, and that's when things really take off. The other version of it is an old illustration, and it's two guys digging underground. And on the top one, you've got this guy who is one strike away from breaking through the ground, and on the other side of it's all these diamonds and a skeleton, dinosaur skeleton. And on the bottom side, you have a guy who's only halfway going, but you can just tell he's not going to stop. In the illustration, his energy is just sky high. And so that guy was one strike away. He was at the point of this is pointless before seeing the payoff of all of his work, and he doubled back. And I think that's what a lot of people do, understandably. And I think that moment of turning around, that line in the sand, is really hard for a reason. Because what's on the other side of it is everything that you want, so it's a test of how bad do you really want this thing. Yeah. And so for me, whenever I come up against those moments, or I've coached 3 people this year through those moments, knowing that they're where they're supposed to be, and on the other side of this test is going to be what they want. And one of them, it was 3 months of being told no by prospective clients. That, he didn't know if it was pricing, he didn't know if it was offering, and so we made some minor tweaks to the offering, added another thing to it, and then I told him, I said, look, you're in the test because the beginning of it did really, really well. So you get excited because it's going really well. It's easy to stay with it. And then he goes through a period where there's a lull, and it's kind of, okay, people are telling me no, I'm not making any money. Like, am I wrong? Do I need to go back? And I told him, this is the test. Like, you got to stick with it. You got to believe. Like, you're really, really close because you're getting tested. And he stays with it. And then one day I get like 3 text messages from him that this person from the past came back. He signed a deal at this big. This person doubled up and they want to do a retainer work with him in addition to the other work he was going to do. And within a week, he went from questioning to no revenue to like $50,000 in revenue in a matter of like 2 days. Yep. And then since then, things have continued to go. So it's that point of turning around. So obviously we can't go back, and you made the right decision for us at the time. But I also wonder if like I had this belief that money finds its way to you just when you need it. So if you would have taken that last withdrawal, which would have been foolish to take that last withdrawal from savings and tell mom, I don't know how it's going to happen, but like I have to do it, that you would have taken that last withdrawal, and then right before the next mortgage payment was due, or rent if we were in the townhome at that time, then boom, you get your first deal that replenishes everything, and now you're off to the races. Like, yeah. It's scary and it's hard to trust that and believe that you're at that point of no, like, of don't turn back because you're so close. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people who have stayed through that and they were wrong, and it caused a problem. The reality of it is the problem on the other side most of the time is fixable. It's just, right. You get humbled. You got to build back up a little bit harder. It's not going to be like life ending. Right. But I think that the reason I was so convicted when helping these 3 clients this year was we had done the work and I knew they were doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so that plays itself out and works when you're doing what you're supposed to do. Like, I fully believe that. So the authentic life, when you're living your authentic life and you're doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing and you're walking a path that's unique to you, that no one else has walked, I have the conviction that you've got to stick with it. It's a test. You want this thing that's going to be great. It's everything you said you've ever wanted. Okay, let's see if you really want it when things get hard. It's easy to want it in the excitement of building it. It's easy to want it when things are going well. But how bad do you really want it? Are you really serious about it, that even when things get tough, you still want it and you stay with it? And if you stay with it, then that's when it comes back up and it takes off. So yeah,
exactly. And I think that's the energy that I wanted to come through with today's discussion about this search for yourself. As I started out saying, settle for who you are right now, simply because you kind of have the luxury to do that when you were, if you would, retired or 70, right? Because there's no pursuit of another job title, another position, another raise, whatever, or the push to get your degrees to again circle back to the success of your title, which generates all of what's been given to us as our measure of success. But now this time, these moments for us are truly about defining more of who we are, either who we are or who we can become. And I just want folks, again, planning for retirement or in this phase, to look at it as this, let's reignite, jumpstart that curiosity we had throughout our life. Some people are just good at it, that's just who they are. Some folks just need a little reminder. And then those who, if you said, there are those who just need to be encouraged. And I just want everybody to keep encouraging yourself to not want to just settle in and say, oh, geez, I have another 164 hours a month to do what I want, and struggle to try to figure out what to do with that. And then that just has that vicious cycle of turning back into boredom. And, take the conversation another way that we'll wrap up with, since you've got a client at 11, is it's easy for us, because we're humans, to now say, okay, yes, I retired. I'm 4 years in. Geez, I did a lot of great things. Now what? And so now I just am easy to settle in and just become bored. And then once boredom sets in, then we all know what happens when boredom sets in. You get a little depressed, and that kicks off here, disturbs relationships. That's when that snowball happens. So my final words this morning are is to keep pushing through, keep the curiosity high. The energy you need to draw from not necessarily those around you that are your age,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, because you may not find a lot of that energy with those around you, depending on who you are. I think you gotta want to be more around the youth.
I have a quick comment on energy. I want to say it earlier, so this will be my last comment. Is that like energy is really important, and so curiosity is going to bring a high vibrational energy to your life. And when you're operating at higher frequencies, that's when life is more enjoyable. Like all of the higher frequency emotions, love, joy, excitement, like those vibrate at a higher frequency than boredom, fear, all the others. And curiosity just naturally brings higher vibrations into your life. So yes, the energy is really important, and the energy of the people that you're with is really important as well. Curiosity will just naturally elevate your energy. And then the way energy works is you begin to attract like energies.
Yeah.
So those older people who are not high vibration, who are living old lives, are not going to be draining on you, because you're not going to be pulling them into your life. You're going to be pulling, whether it's other like-minded people in retirement who are curious and vibrating high, or you find yourself like Uncle John. Like he used to go audit classes at the universities, and all of the kids loved him. Like he was young at heart, and he had that vibration and curiosity, and the college students all were drawn to him. And going back one more time to like our youth, I think like when we're younger, before society has its influence, like when we are in our earliest ages, like that's the closest to our authentic selves, the closest to where like to what we're supposed to be doing. And it's like babies are always joyful. Like not when like they're hungry, they cry, and they're dirty, they cry. But otherwise, all they know is joy until the world gets a hold of them. And they are the most curious people in the world. Like how many times does a kid ask you questions? They're curious. And in that curiosity is higher vibrational energy. So totally, like being more curious. If you're finding yourself lower energy and like down, like curiosity will bring you up, just because of the state of where that is. So the curiosity is going to bring a higher vibrational energy, which is going to change everything around you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where we'll wrap things up. I think we ended on a very, very positive thought for everybody out there listening or watching in. So with that, as always, Jay, it's always good for us to be together. I think this one a little more of our high energy show. And I think Mom will be happy with me this time, because it should come across I was a little happier doing what I'm doing. She said I was sometimes too boring. So trying to be a little bit more upbeat.
It's because you think too much about the episode.
No,
just know what you want to talk about and come in and riff on it.
I know. So I do. The fact that I like to have notes is just me. I like to have that. So on that, again, Jay, as always, thanks. It's great. As always, as I said, more than just a continuation of what I'm doing with this, but it's more of our opportunity to keep that going between us, and that's important to me. So with that, for those listening, thanks as always for being with us. And just a reminder, as this episode should have told you, we never want to quit searching, never settle, and we want to keep going after our greater purpose.
And if you need help seeking and searching and finding your greater purpose, that's what this dude is doing these days. So reach out to him so he can bring the J and K that didn't happen, and have this business he just started now get a chance to grow, helping you navigate all the stuff he's navigated. So just got to plug your services, because you won't do it yourself.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it as always. So listen, man, have a good day. I guess we'll see you, Sunday, right? Saturday's community.
Sauce got a game on Saturday.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure.
Game Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it depends on what time his game Saturday is against Trevin's game. So,
Sunday for First Communion.
Yeah, First Communion. So sometimes, we're always going to see one another every weekend for the boys' schedules, except for Leo and Roman, who have to be playing out of state all the time now. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, Leo has a home game on Saturday too.
Oh, okay.
This is his last game of the season before they go to Salt Lake.
So yeah, Trevin's this weekend too. So we'll have to balance all that out. So back to making use of your time, unless you're a grandparent and have four boys who are all sports minded. Thankfully, our young ladies are our culture of the family. So with Kaya, although she just gets two 2 times, one in summer and one in winter for her dance recital, unless she gets heavy into volleyball. Then we'll have to balance that with everything. So, and unless it's a bad weather day, then we invoke the grandparents' clause and no more sitting out in rain or cold or hot days as we still do that. But as always, man, thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
All right.
See you this weekend somewhere.
Sounds good.
All right.